on. So, where do I start? First of all, I do not consider myself worthy to be standing here today because I don't know what I've done to come here and talk to you that would inspire you. I feel I'm still a work in progress, and I'm still trying to make the impact that I can to my community, to my country. However, maybe I just share a few stories of my background with you. I grew up, just like most of you, in a very normal community, Suleja, Niger State. And back then it was largely rural. Although I come from a family, of privilege, but for some reason my dad made sure that, he brought us up like every other normal Nigerian, average Nigerian. And back then, a lot of times we try to protest. We want to request for things that we see that our peers have, especially people of my dad's stature. And then we're wondering why we don't have or enjoy such privileges. And he always goes back and gives us stories of his peers while he was young, that were from well-off families, and how they ended up, squandering, the wealth and the privileges that they had, and never became anything to themselves, talk more of becoming, to the community and, to their country. So that's something that he kept drumming in our ears. And he said that from every generation, new people from nowhere would emerge, that would, through, dint of hard work, innovation, creativity, and sheer humanity, rise to become whatever and whoever they want to become. So it is his duty to give us that very basic lifestyle, just like every other person. And the only thing that he had to give us, and he assured us of, was education. So he would give us the best of education. You go to whatever school you wanted to go, so long as you're working hard and you're studying and you're staying in school and you're staying off drugs, he could assure you that there is something called Nigerian dream. A lot of people do not believe in Nigerian dream. I know you always hear of American dream, but Nigerian dream is happening every day around you. You see people from nowhere, you hear people's stories, how just by being within the country, working hard, going around, leaving your comfort zone, meeting people they've never met before, they become who they are today. These stories are everywhere, even within our immediate, communities, happening right now. It is for you to believe, and it's for you to seek to share from this dream. So I grew up, like I said, like every other normal person. Suleja was rural. I went to a government school in Suleja for my primary education. I went to a federal government college, Kwali, for secondary, Unity School. I went to University of Jos, and then for my postgraduate, I went to, to the UK for my master's and my PhD. But why did I choose the field that I am in right now, which is rural electrification? Prince spoke about, the good works he's doing earlier, in alternative energy, bringing solar and storage, to people. I think we share similar passion, because I've always wondered, growing up in a rural community like Suleja, where there is no electricity constantly, and you have to be in darkness, you can't watch TV, you can't study when you want to study. It's just basically, discomforting. And just from curiosity, start to ask questions. Why is this like this? Why can't we have steady electricity, stable electricity, uninterrupted? As you all know, it has ripple effects on the economy, on job creation, on just having, better, lifestyle, for our people. And from asking questions, I got to realize that there is a gap. And this gap has to be filled by knowledge, by innovation, by creativity. As you see, almost 83 million Nigerians don't have access to electricity as of today, because just half of our population is connected to the national grid. So when you see all of these transmission cables and distribution cables that go into your households, that's a part of a national grid, that supplies electricity. And it's possible that you generate this electricity from one part of the country, and it has to travel, miles and kilometers, thousands to another part of the country to supply. So for instance, Prince mentioned Geregu 1 and 2, which generated from gas in Ajaokuta. And it's possible that it is transmitted all the way to Kano for people to consume. And sometimes for you to achieve this, it's a whole complex web of managing the system. And we're still at that manual stage in Nigeria where we haven't automated the system to make it efficient. So the grid itself has a problem because of the size of the country and the fact that we haven't advanced, technologically. So why haven't we tapped into off-grid? That was my question. So I said, okay, the grid, they have their problems, but the people that are really suffering the most are those that are off-grid. So I sought to do a research in that field. While I was doing the research, I didn't know I was going to end up in REA. I didn't know I was going to be executive director. My dad did not even know what I was talking about. In fact, my dad wanted me to be an engineer. As far back as secondary school, I think when I was in SS1, I started off with sciences because he wanted me to be an engineer. But then after the first term, I didn't do well in the class, and I saw the people around, because I'm very competitive like that. And these guys are brilliant, and I don't deceive myself. I know that there is no way I'll beat these guys in the next 2-3 years that I'll be in this class. So I just decided quietly to move to social science class where I know at least I would be able to compete and have an edge. So when my dad got wind, he came with my mom, and they met my principal. They said, no, my dad said, I want you to be an engineer. I'm building a company. I want you to, be part of it. And my principal asked me, young man, your dad has it all figured out for you. Why don't you want to, be an engineer? I said, because there's no need for me to be an engineer. I don't want to be an engineer. I want to study economics, and I go further to do a research and do a PhD, in rural energy development to know, how to contribute to solving this energy problem. And there was silence in the room. And the principal looked back at my dad and said, you're lucky to have a child that knows what he wants to do. And that was the last time my dad ever tried to, micromanage or control me or whatever. And well, I went on to, do my PhD in rural energy development. At the time, I was the only one in the country that had studied along that route. So I didn't know what was out there for me, to be honest. So I came back to Nigeria, and then I got a job with the German International Cooperation Agency. I left one job then, which was better paying, the Nigerian Bulk Electricity Trading, for that one, because for me, it was not about the money, it was about passion. And this German International Cooperation Agency, which is funded by the EU and German government, we're looking at solutions, to support the government in terms of really solving the electricity problem in rural communities. So that means we had to do policies, we had to do regulations, we had to do studies and get like a database of what needed to be done for the entire country, which was what I did as well at my PhD level. And it was very, very interesting because we were able to support government to do that. And then from there, I got wind. This is very important, of a vacancy at the Rural Electrification Agency. And a lot of people will come and tell you, oh, I didn't know, how this guy got it. Maybe his dad, and all of that. But the truth is, I decided on my own to apply for this job when there was no adverts. I wrote to the president, I wrote to whoever, the minister. I told them that this is my background, this is what I want to do. And I did it genuinely and passionately because I knew I could do better if I was in that agency. And I didn't do it because I felt there was anything, to be made of it, but genuinely felt like this is where my set skills, could deliver the impact. And I got lucky. I got called for an interview. Initially they were going to give me the managing director position there, but then they said I was too young. I was 32 years then. They said, according to the minister then, Fashola, who is like a mentor to me. So he gave the analogy of a football field. He said, in a team, when a star player comes in, they don't just put him to play 90 minutes of the game. They have to substitute the older striker, after 60 minutes, 70 minutes, and bring him in for 20 minutes, and gradually he takes over. So we are not going to make you MD, you'll be executive director. Would you want that? And I said, why not? The idea is to contribute. And alhamdulillah, when we went there, we've now been able to change the agency from being just a grid extension agency and buying of transformers to an agency that is largely moving towards off-grid. We've also been able to change the agency from just relying on monosource for funding, which is the national budget, to attracting more funds from, international development finance institutions. You look at the World Bank, look at the African Development Bank, you look at the European Union, German government, and a lot of other sources of funds. So we have various programs now just targeted at, delivering alternative energy using solar, in various sectors. Look at the education sector. We have the university program going on where we are providing electricity to 37 federal universities and 7 university teaching hospitals. We have several communities that had never seen electricity in their lives before. And just because it's so expensive for you to extend the grid, 20, 30, 40 kilometers to a small village, we have a new technology we can just deploy called the hybrid mini grid, solar mini grid, just generating electricity from, the sun and battery banks and distributing to the immediate community. And that is what, Prince, his company is doing. So for instance, you see the joy when you go to communities that for 200 years, there was a community we went to in Ogun State. It was 60 kilometers deep into the forest. And people were living there, and for 200 years, they've never had, electricity. It's called Oloji community. And even bringing it back home here in Opake, that is the ancestral home of Ibra. They've never had electricity in their lives before, but this kind of system which we've deployed there now has made them have uninterrupted power supply. So what's the moral of my story? It is don't set out looking for, money, fame, whatever. As Inya said, there has to be a purpose, and nobody will help you find that purpose. You have to find it yourself. It's innate, and there is this innate ability and good in everybody, to want to do good and want to impact. So whether be it in government, public service, entrepreneurship, radio, the medical sciences, social media, whatever it is, find it, learn the skills, develop yourself, and then make impact. Impact doesn't have to start from large scale. A lot of people did not know me before I became executive director. And even when I became, the first thing people thought was, oh, this guy, maybe because of his dad. But when they saw my CV and they saw all of the work I had done, they could hardly believe that a young person could, have achieved this. But like I said, I'm still a work in progress, and I believe that all of us can continue to work on ourselves, deliver our purpose, and hopefully make impact. Start from community organizing. You can start from your house. If you see that things are not are properly done, even if it's to help out in, cleaning the community, the household, attend meetings that have to do with, taking care of your communities. Gradually, you can build up from there. If you need to study, look for things that you can study and, help the community and help the country to grow and help humanity, generally. So this is, my perception of life, and this is my belief and the way I look at things, from way back. So I'll urge you all, I saw some students here. You have to stay in school, you have to study hard, it's very important. That's the only thing that you can do for yourself. Your parents can only help, or the government can only help send you to school. However, don't live under your parents' shadows. They've done their part. Some of us are lucky, Prince is here. My first time of meeting him, but we are related somehow. I come from a family of service, from way back. My great-grandfather, served our clan. He was the one in charge of, allocation and administration of land. My grandfather was a councillor, a politician. My father, senator, and then I'm here now doing my bit. Then from my paternal grandma's side, related to, the Ohiare, their cousins, the daughter of Wakili. So these are just things that have happened, and they've done their part. So we're lucky we come from that kind of family. What are you doing for the next generation? What are you preparing for your kids and their kids? And what are you hoping, what kind of life and society are you hoping they would live in? The time is now for you to start to think of how you can contribute for that next generation to have a better life. Thank you very much.